Hello, Richard. Can you hear me? Nice. Just need to put a link up in Discord. Hello, Abdullah. Just going to give it 5 minutes for more people to come in, and then we'll get talking. Linky, yo. How are you guys doing? How is everyone? How have your days been? Yeah. All right, a few more minutes. Till 22, another 5 minutes. So you've got about 5 people here. I've messed up the message on Discord. Rainy summer. Yeah, it's getting a bit rainy and cold here as well. It's been really nice up until like today, past few days. A1, hello. Who are you on Twitter? I swear you were the guy that asked me about useless the other week, and then we looked at it and said that it looked like it was going to burst up, and then it's now absolutely ripped. You don't have to dox yourself on Twitter, though, if you don't want to. Marcel, hello. Zero, yo. Okay, a few more minutes, and then let's get cracking into this. Yeah, can we get some volatility? Yeah, I know. You can see on the screen now on the weekly time frame that we're just in a range. It's kind of boring, isn't it? But it does this a lot. It did this last summer as well, look. Okay, a couple more minutes. 11 people. Who's here? We've got Richard, Abdullah, Linky, A1, Asel, 0. Okay, let's get into it. So first of all, the stream is sponsored by Watts Exchange. That's who I'm charting on. It's kind of linked to TradingView, so it's pretty similar. But yeah, pretty simple and clean to trade with them. It's non-KYC, and they've got a big airdrop, which you can start farming points for now just by trading on it. So that's early 2026, the airdrop, and they're doing it in the style of hyperliquid, so it could be very juicy, particularly if you start trading now, and there's a link in the description below. But let's get into this. So weekly time frame. I'm going to do weekly down to like whatever, maybe 15 minutes, 30 minutes. We'll see what it is, what the picture looks like, because it's a little bit different from this morning. And then we'll do the same on Ethereum, and then we'll do the same on Sol, and then we will look at any like charts you guys want to look at. So I am covering this like constantly, but it will burn into your brains eventually. So weekly, previous all-time high, we have the weekly, and then we very clearly have the, just 1 second, I need to set this up. It's the one I didn't set up. I'm just going to change the template to something a bit nicer. Okay. So there's your kind of weekly range that we're in. I probably would expect the lows of this range on this time frame. It looks like it's going to come down and test that again, just purely by setting up this range. The way that this has kind of gone sideways, I mean, unless it finds some buying very suddenly, it looks like we need to range a little bit more before we get a next leg up on this time frame. But you know, we'll see on the lower time frames what it looks like. But yeah, to me, this overall picture kind of looks like this low wants to get tested again. We'll see. So on the daily time frame now, and we keep that relevant. So what we can see, and again, this is just that weekly range that has been put in, but I'm just going to move that like this. So now instead of having the weekly time frame range, we've got the daily range, and this makes a little bit more sense to me on this time frame. I think it's really clean. So, and I'm just talking about patterns which I trade, and I trade these patterns mostly, well, pretty much solely on Forex, on GBP USD, but they work on any market, they work on any time frame. It's just price action at the end of the day. So as I've covered over and over and over again, here are a couple of resistance lines. And like I said, the more I burn it into your head, the more the lessons are going to stay. So we have on the left of the picture a big trend up, and then this is the support area, which is holding all of this price action up. And this support area gets broken by the selling, which originates from here. And then it forms a nice retrace high, which also takes price down to new lows. And that's where the selling starts from there. And all this level is holding all of this price action down until it comes up here, and then it puts a cluster in at the resistance level. Instead of dropping down, it just continues to the upside and continues the trend. So we have key levels at these junctures, and I'm just marking the extreme of that. To me, that was the nicest level, but we have to wait and see. So I'm just going to get rid of that just because there's too much yellow on the screen otherwise. So we know that's a key level. This is where the buying took place to break this, but it's also the origin of this swing. Instead of dropping down, this is kind of like confirmation that we're in a bull trend, and we get higher prices originating from this level. This is obviously the very, very foot of the move. But once first trouble area, aka this resistance here, gets flipped and this key level gets flipped, This is now like the start of the new phase, if you like. So what happens is price pushes up and then ranges just below this resistance level, just below the all-time high, and then pushes up, takes out the all-time high, comes back down into the level, and then hits the bottom of the range before pushing back up. But then it can't go any higher, drops back down to the lows of the range, and presently we're in an uptrend kind of locally. It has made a higher high locally, but it hasn't got over this high here yet, which is kind of reacted from, and then it's kind of dropping from at the moment as well. If I just take this back a little bit, what we do have as well, and I might just drop down to H12 to see this. So in the same way that I said about we had a trend up and then we had this range form, we also have the exact same thing here. We have a trend up and then we have a range that is forming, and we have a bit of a decision point here, which takes out this high. This is where the buying took place for that. And it's been tested once, but we have that range, and I'm just going to change the color. We have that range as well. So as you can see in the context of this range, there's a big sort of indecision level where it doesn't know if it wants to go down, doesn't know if it wants to go up. What it probably can be sure of is that it's going to go sideways. But I would imagine based on this, it would come down to this range low, and it probably would come back down and test this 105K level. If that gets broken, then we see the higher time frame range low as our next destination, which is 100,700. And then if that one gets broken, then we're looking all the way down here at like 92K. So this kind of level is the one that needs to hold really for the market structure to hold in place, in my opinion. Otherwise, we're going to see that daily range low get hit. On H4, the picture is just as clean, basically. You can see how everything is just going sideways, and at the moment, it looks like it may want to come down here. On the hourly, so let's talk about what I was talking about on my video today. The price action isn't as great. Remove that range high, but we'll bring that back into the picture in a moment. We have this range that I just talked about. We have the resistance here. This is the decision point. And I talked about this on Friday. I don't know if you guys saw my post on X. But this is where the decision was made to break out of this range. This is where the buying took place. And then again, similar to exactly all the other levels we've talked about, price pushes up and then ranges and then has a bit of indecision about what happens before dropping back down to the decision point. From here, this was Friday night, bounces and then spends all weekend going sideways and then starts pushing up. But the problem with it is you can see it's bounced off of the bottom of this range high. So, I mean, it looks pretty much perfect here. Pushes up, reacts from it, tries to push up again, and then gets rejected again at the exact same high. And now we're experiencing a little bit of a market structure break locally. And when it happens locally, you can normally expect, like on this 1 hour time frame, you'd then look to the next key level on H4, which is probably kind of around here. But I wouldn't be surprised to see this kind of just range a little bit more at this decision point and head back up. But what I look for personally is a reversal sign before I get long. So I wouldn't take this and with a limit order and just trade it that way. I would wait for something like this, as I've discussed in my videos, where you have a low, a high, a higher low, a higher high, a higher low, and then look to enter. Particularly in a choppy environment like this, where everything's kind of going sideways, you're better suited to wait for more price action to develop and be really sure, in my opinion, than waiting and, you know, for a limit order that you're setting down here at the extreme, because it can get broken, and then what we might see is a continuation pattern, basically the inverse of that reversal pattern, where it wants to then come down to this daily range low. So this level is a key one for the week. I would expect maybe it will come down about halfway and then put some reversal signs in. And that's kind of what I'm looking for to go long anyway. But also, if you take into consideration that kind of bouncing ball meme where price bounces and then just kind of drops off like that, it kind of looks a little bit like that. There's one, and it might do this. So who knows at the moment? And, you know, the point of making a plan isn't to 100% expect it. It could basically do like a million different things at this level. But what I want to see is some sort of reversal pattern before I look to get long. But this is a great level to do so. And I said that on Friday night when I think the price action was somewhere around here, and then it dropped down in the evening. I thought it was probably going to range up here for the weekend, and then Monday morning come down here, and then we get our reversal. But all the low volume price action kicked in at this low over the weekend. So for me, this now is kind of just retesting it. You know, it broke out on low volume. I want to see more sideways before I'm convinced this is going to go back up. But, you know, on this time frame, on the daily time frame, oops, when you put into consideration that we have this daily range, my opinion, we'll probably see a dip back into it before another shoot up, but it has respected it. It's flipped the upper side of it as support. So that's a good sign, but, you know, it's not great that it's just going fucking sideways. We can only pray for some volatility, like was said in the chat. So yeah, if you can mark that yourselves, look on H1, I deleted it, but, you know, train your eye to see these things. And there are videos on the YouTube channel, but this level is the key one for me at the moment before we then have to start discussing down here, which is kind of sitting on that daily range high. So a really key area to look for reversals or continuations if it ends up breaking to the downside. But if it starts breaking to the downside, yeah, we may still see that 92K level on the daily. But yeah, we'll see. I always advocate waiting for as much confirmation as possible, essentially, and particularly in environments like this where we are ranging. Okay, so now let's jump to Ethereum. And then if you've got any questions on that, we'll cover that at the end. I'll just whiz through these two charts as well. So again, just the most clear and obvious thing, we have this big low and then this big high here. So this is where the origin of the sell-off took place to actually break this big low. And this big low was the origin of the buying that pushed price back up to test the all-time high. So key level, and that's a key level. This is therefore a key level. And then on this time frame, it's just going sideways. So similar concepts to what we just talked about in Bitcoin. The most recent swing is a trend up and then a range like that. It's just been ranging since, wow, nearly 2 months of ranging. Okay. So typical price action in the summer, obviously, and we can maybe expect a breakout at some point soon because it has been ranging a long time. But I would favor, based on this, that we'll probably end up maybe putting a higher low in before, you know, we see any upside. I'm just looking at the way I've seen these patterns before, but I don't know Ethereum that well. I'm just trying to go by what I see. So on this time frame, yeah, it's just ranging. We need to see a convincing break either above this high or below this low, and this will be a market structure break if we end up getting a big close down below it. So let's talk about that on H12 just to get some more candles. And I'm just going to mark this a little bit different so it doesn't get in the way. But that is the range low for the daily time frame. Sitting on it, we have this cluster which ends up getting broken. But if you took it back, if you come back to the 23rd of June or the 23rd of June, and the price action's down here at 2227, you'll be looking at this level here as a place to short, because it's a continuation level. It breaks this big support level, and this is where you would expect price push up and then continue the bearish trend from, like so. It doesn't, though. It breaks it, which is a bullish sign, and then ranges to the side. If you're short here, you could get so pissed off because it's not breaking down. But on H4, it's got the cleanest picture of it. Okay, so it trends up, puts in a range at this key supply zone. The next one is here. This is where the retrace point was, breaks the support at this level, retraces this blue candle, and then it sells off from here to create new lows and then ultimately break this. So you can see that was the target for this move. And if you're trading supply and demand, if you're trading any type of price action trading style, price travels from demand to supply, and then price travels from supply to demand. It just does that, and it always goes to the extremes. It always goes to the ends of these chains. So even though this is here a really key and obvious level, because you can see like, oh, this is major resistance, it's part of a chain. And like if I mark out this entire level, it would basically be the candle, and you can see that this is essentially part of the overall structure. So even though that was key, it goes towards the extremes. So looking back at this range, it paints a really nice picture and a really textbook pattern, to be honest. What happens is you get the range confirmed at this low, and you can watch my videos on this, but essentially price moves up, retraces, and then when it pushes back up to test that retrace high, it confirms this as a range. And then what happens is it pushes up, and we're here at this point, pushes back down, goes sideways in the range, pushes up again, higher low, and then puts in a second breakout, which is this point here. And all of this price action here says to me, does not want to go down, do not short. And then that candle here, that one there, is my entry candle. That's why I entered on with a stop below the range low. Because I'm not familiar with crypto, if that was GBP USD, I would have seen that rocket. But because I'm not familiar with crypto, what happened is it then came down and swept all of those lows, reacts off of the range low, and then pushes up. That's a bullish sign. Thankfully, I didn't get stopped because I know to put a little bit of padding below, but it became very, very close to my stop loss. But then what happens in the price action sense, and this is a really nice, like I said, textbook range. You could have entered in on this candle as well. This should, if my patterns are right, and if I know my chart that I'm trading on, I don't know Ethereum that well, this would continue up. Like, I'm very confident of this. But I don't know, like I said, Ethereum that well. On H1, again, the picture is quite clear. We have these big highs here, and then we have this low here, because we have, again, another sort of mini range forms at that resistance level, that key resistance, where it pushes up, drops down to put the retrace low in, confirms the range high, comes back down to test the low, tries to break out but can't, finds support at the lows again, mid-range, and then it finally drops. So when it finally drops below the range low, it puts in this supply zone, and instead of price, it comes down. If you're short, the last thing you want to see after a big drop is sideways movement, and then it pushes up and into the supply zone. And instead of pushing up and then dropping, it pushes up, retraces, and then makes a higher high, aka this point here. So this is a kind of decent level if there was more volume in the chart, but there's not a huge amount of volume. So I'm expecting some sort of reversal pattern, particularly on the lower time frames around here. But again, it's low volume and you don't see, you know, it's all cluttered together. What I want to see is something nice and obvious like that. And we're probably like in that first third that it's generating that reversal pattern, if it is indeed to paint one. So my level here would, you know, it's got this range that has formed. You could have it there, or you could probably have it a little bit lower, but that one's a little bit cleaner. Where what I would want to see for a reversal is now a higher high, maybe a higher low, and then another higher high. And then I would take that as this is gonna reverse. And then you can you could, you know, look to enter on a limit order on a retest for a higher low, or the next breakout. But, you know, it all depends on how the chart looks at the right time, right? So yeah, that's Ethereum. But ultimately, I should cover the bearish case for it as well. It could well, you know, put in some lows like that and then drop. I just don't know at the moment. And part of the problem with making content is that you kind of want to be able to give an answer, but there aren't any answers. The answer is you have to wait for the price action to develop, and this is in a key area for the price action to develop. Once it's developed enough, then you can make an educated decision, and you can put risk on with logic, rather than, in my opinion, going like, this is a key level, but just because it's a key level doesn't mean it's going to bounce. And it doesn't mean it is going to continue. It could just range here for the next 2 days. Looking at what happened at the weekend, you know, it can happen. So it could just do that here as well. And, you know, I've certainly experienced days and weeks like that. But all I can say at this point is this is a key level. I would expect some decision to be made at this point as to whether the next move is going to be taking us down to that daily range low at 24.52 or continue this move higher. Okay. Next one, Solana. What do you guys mostly trade, by the way? Because I do Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana because I trade Bitcoin. I started covering Ethereum and I've taken a trade on it just because it does look quite good. But it's like one of the main coins. And then Solana is, again, one of the main coins. And it's something that I traded a fair bit last year when I was messing around with meme coins. But I don't actually know what you guys mostly trade. So I'm keeping that as the format for the videos, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, and for these live streams. But I'm happy to do stuff afterwards as well. But if you guys, like, if no one's trading Solana, I won't bother covering it. Or I'll replace it with something that, you know, you guys are trading. So on the weekly, not a huge amount to go by, other than we have this big low, and this is where the buying took place to come and make new highs. So it taken out this previous high. And this is basically, you know, at this point is where some buyers stepped in essentially and stopped the price from continuing down, and then rips up. So that's a key level, and then puts in a double top, drops down all the way to this support, wicks it, and then pushes back up. So you would expect on this time frame it would continue up, but it hasn't. It has met this level here, this resistance. I'll just mark it like that. And this is the origin of the selling that took place that took out this low on this swing. So, and again, this is at an area of support. So reading the story of price is a very key level at this point in time. So if we drop down to the daily to get some more candles, and the picture is a little bit cleaner here. So I'm just gonna get rid of that. Mark it like this. So it has engulfed it. And then on this time frame, it's put in a range at that key level. So this is what I was talking about on Ethereum, you know, on M15. It comes to a key level, but you have to wait for the price action to develop enough to tell us what to do. So what it has done, it has basically confirmed that this is a retrace by taking out the low, pushing up, but it hasn't really broken anything that key. Like this is somewhat key, but this is what I would call first trouble area for shorts. So if you shorted up here, price comes down, and then you would expect this level here to hold price down, but it doesn't. Breaks it, ranges a bit, and then pushes up to the deepest level, which is with the origin of the entire sell-off. So then when it comes up here, it ranges and then breaks down. So what it does is it pushes up, confirms the range, tests the low, tests the high and wicks it, goes sideways at the mid-range, and then creates a lower low. This would be your short trigger or your signal from the market to look for shorts. And then what it does is it curves back around, and then look here, it flips the underside of the range, wicks it, and then drops down. So now that again, like the thing you don't want to see if you are short at this point is sideways. You want it to drop, maybe retest it, drop, kind of go sideways, and then drop at this next level. But instead, it's come to probably the deepest level. In the same way, this is the deepest level for market structure change. This is the deepest level for market structure change too. It's the decision point to come and break this high and then ultimately send price up here. And then on the way down, it's tested this low, and then it's bounced, and it's made new highs. It's broken first trouble area after an initial bounce from it. And this would be the first trouble area, that last high before the low is put in. And then it's taken out, put in, well, it's kind of, I don't know what it looks like on the lower time frames, but on this time frame, it's wicked this high. So it hasn't put in it's kind of put in a higher high technically. It's reached a higher price, but it has wicked it, and now it's going sideways. So if this is like the top up here, this range, I'd expect this little range, which we'll mark on the lower time frames in a minute, you would expect that to break down, but consider it's broken first trouble area, it could well look like threatening and then rip to the upside. If it doesn't break down and it puts in a big momentum to the upside, that's probably kind of going to be your signal that it's going to continue north, and that it's not going to break down, and then you would look to target above these highs. So let's drop down to H4 rather than H12. So here we have a bit of a cleaner picture, and we can see the origin locally is here, and then we have a little bit of a range at this point, and you can see price is kind of oscillating between it essentially. But let's just mark it a little bit differently. Let's read the story of price, and we can come back to that. So that was the last support, aka the decision to come up and make this high. So this is the key level. Drops down, and there's a level here which we talked about last week, which I'll talk about on the hourly. Actually, let's do it now because it does matter. So we have this high like up here, and then we have this one up here as well. But this is the decision to not respect those highs and push past it. So that's where the buying took place. So that's a key level. And then, so just remember that level. And then if we jump onto H4, you can see it breaks this support and then drops down to that decision point on the hourly, rips back up, but can't put in a new high, and then comes down to the deepest low, and then ranges sideways. But it's kind of it's a nice reversal type range, because as you can see, if there's your range, it hasn't tested the lows again, and it's just put in a higher low at the mid-range and then a higher low above the mid-range, and then it's broken out. That's a bullish sign. And then the fact that it hasn't got over here says something at the moment, but I do think based on this, it's probably going to build up. So on the hourly, and we have a really clean range here. You can see breakout, tests the low, tests the high, tests the low, tests the high, tests the low, tests the high, but can't get above it. Test the low again, test the high immediately in the same candle, and then starts dropping down. I wouldn't take this as a signal yet that it wants to go lower, even though it's broken to the underside of the range. The volume is low and you're kind of going against the bias that we've just set. What I would want to see is come back into the range. This is if I'm bearish. Come back into the range and then put in maybe another low, a higher low, and then a lower low, and then I'd get short. That's the pattern I'd want to see from this point to get short. So you can see it's a ways away. You can't predict things, but if it does that, if it makes a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, and then another lower low after breaking out of this range to the downside, that's bearish. Otherwise, you know, what it could happen is it comes up, tests the low, puts in a higher high, higher low, higher high, and then I'd look to go long, and I'd be happy that this is going to continue to the upside, all based on this range. And then the lower time frames, you can see it's choppy, it is low volume. So it's probably going to happen over a course of days maybe, but that on the H1 time frame looks really clean. But if it breaks to the downside and starts, it could either sweep these lows down here like that. It could sweep those lows and then paint a bullish picture, or it could, come up like that. But I would favor longs, even just like looking at this picture, at this trend. But if it doesn't start pushing above here, the other situation, which would be really clean for a shorts, is if it comes back up with strong momentum and then drops down really quickly afterwards. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm looking at Solana. I wouldn't know. So my bias would be long, but I wouldn't long down here because it could easily just break down. But with that confirmation of more sideways price action and something to actually read, then I would look to maybe go long. But yeah. So I hope all of that has made sense. If you've got any questions, let me know. And I'm just going to have some water and then I'll look at the chat. Linky, already farming some points. Nice one. I hope on my Linky. But yeah, you guys should check out What Exchange. As you can see down here, all you have to do is you can just connect your wallet. It's like any of your standard wallets that come, like Rabby and MetaMask and Phantom. And then you can just start trading straight away. Really quick and easy. Non-KYC as well. Okay. Slowly bleeding to goblins now. Abide Ali. Hello, good evening. Hello, mate. Haven't seen you for a while. How are you? Richard, watching BTC at the moment. It's cool, whatever you see, Matt. Zero says BTC, ETH, Sol, occasionally strong alts, XRP, Bonk, Pepe, Doge. Fair. Did you want me to look at any of them? I think he says depends. Strong uptrends, Bonk recently, sometimes using Monday range to pick the coin. If the price dives below Monday low and manages to close back inside the range, I start looking for setups. Fair. Sounds like a good plan. The close back inside the range must be H1. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it can be whatever time frame. But if that's unless you're telling me that's what your strategy is, then yeah. When it comes to price action trading, you can do it basically you can see on H1 that it's in a range. If you then drop down to like M5, oops, you could see like the overall picture that we're at the bottom of this range, and it's likely that we'll see a reversal. So on this time frame, you could wait for a range to form or a reversal sign down here and then go long, and then you've got much tighter RR, and you're using the that price's fractal to make these decisions, but exactly the same patterns on different time frames. You could even jump down to M1 after M5 with the higher time frame in context. You've got this H1 map, you know you're at the bottom of this H1 low that is likely to retrace to potentially the range high. You could jump down to M1, although this volume is dog shit. You could see, like, I'm just like drawing it for the sake of it, but you know, you could get a range there, and then it could come here sideways for ages and then suddenly break out, and you're on M1 and you've got like a $1-2 stop loss because you're just using the range low and you're targeting all the way up here. So would that be, no, it's less than $1. I think it's like 336 to, yeah, I mean, that's like fuck all, isn't it? You can end up getting like a 5-6 hour trade up to there. That's how you can do it, but it all depends on your personality, your schedule, and everything. Zero says, no, I'm only playing the majors right now. Feel like alts only really get strong PA once majors choose a definitive direction. Yeah, I agree. After the H1 close back inside Monday range, I zoom into M5, M1. Nice. Yeah, it's a good way of doing things. You can get very high risk reward with them. Any other questions, guys? Are you enjoying the streams, and are you enjoying the videos? Most of my basically the main content I want to put on my channel is just kind of overall trading psychology, and as I get back into more full-time trading, showing more of my day-to-day routine and day trading. The eventual goal is to get some live trading going at some point. So just have like a small little group that does like 10 people just to test it out to start with at some point in the future to do live trading. But yeah, most of my content on the channel I want to be kind of overall trading psychology in that. And then the Mondays is when I'm going to be dedicated to doing this. Quick analysis for Floki and Bonk. Yeah, sure. Is it on the list here? I'll just put it in. H4D1. Yeah, okay. Oh. Okay, so I would say obviously you got your big low here. And then you have, this is your level. On the daily, sitting at that big low. It's the range really, but you know, it's going to do a lot of drawing. But as you can see, price always tends to gravitate at some point to the extremes. So go to the extreme. That was the continuation level of this overall trend. And then on this time frame, I would say that your deepest retrace level is probably here on this swing. And I can see that just about, but on lower time frames that'll become clearer. And then you've got your decision point here, which is price is broken and it's kind of going sideways at and looking to break upwards. So if we go to H4, let's just look at that deepest retrace level. If there's data, where's the data? Oh, was that not it? Oh yeah, okay, maybe I don't have the data for it. Okay, no worries. locally is more important anyway. So big low here and here. Okay, so on the daily time frame, this was that decision point on the daily, but that's getting held up by this level, which you can't see on the daily time frame. But look, it broke it, and then it put in. Oh, this is really clean. Yeah, really clean reversal. Oops. So then you've got this decision point here, which is where the selling takes place to come and take out all of these lows. And then it pushes up and it gets rejected once and then breaks, and it gets rejected again, but not as far. And then it starts pushing up. So on the hourly time frame, following the same principles, you've got your high here. This is where price gets knocked down, but then it bounces off of this demand zone down here, kind of a decision point to come and take out these highs and make the new high. And it comes down, respects it, pushes up, and then you've got this level on the hourly, which would be really clean to look for trades from, in my opinion. Look for reversals there. Or it could come down and then put continuation, but that's a nice clean level. 0.078 on the hourly. Clean price action. Bonk. I want a bonk. I don't know if you knew. I've not heard it called that in so long. If you guys are from America, you probably don't know what that is, but English people will. Right. This is really like big demand zone. All right, so price comes down, puts a demand zone in, really clean and obvious. That is just drop, base, rally. That's about as textbook a demand zone as you would like. Now let me just mark the base of it at the extreme. So it comes down and it gets broken, retraces, and that's the high here. This is the daily time frame, by the way. And then this is the origin of that sell-off. You can see that low gets taken out, but this is where the the selling took place to come and break it. And it's also an area, it lines up with this, which is a decision point to come and break this high. You know, this was a bit of a range. So this is a key level, and then sitting at that key level is another key level for breaking two key levels, and it's also sitting on this low. So in terms of like the strength of this level and how key it is, you can see on a retest of it, price, you know, how much is that? 52% drop from there. So it was a pretty significant level. If you're wanting to see lower prices, you're going to be looking at this kind of a bit pissed off, because again, you've got a really clean demand zone down here that it's just kind of compressed into, and it's now made a high. It's broken first trouble area, and now it's coming up to, it's broken this one as well. So if we jump to H4, picture will be cleaner. So a couple of clean areas. And this is really nice charts. I should look into trading them more. So that is the deepest retrace level. It's that decision point which has come up and broken us out of the range and broken these highs. And then you've got another like kind of little continuation range sitting here. So if this is bullish, it could come down here and bounce before it comes down to here. But this is all just part of a chain that reacts from this overall decision point level here. And then on the hourly, as I expected, look, okay, this is really nice. So we have our range here, and we have the decision point down here that continued the move to break out above this key resistance. And then sitting on that key resistance, we have this range where it's pushed up to form the range. So like that. And then it's come down and it's just put in another higher high in, currently a higher low. The volume isn't great, but if it may even just keep going sideways and then start breaking out. But this looks bullish, in my opinion. I wouldn't rule out down here at 0.205, but this does look quite bullish. It may reject off this point, test these lows, and then start climbing. But yeah, this looks like a really nice chart as well. If you're not in, like I'm not sitting in on this trade, you're at the top of this swing after a it's not wrong button this way. After like a 62% move, you'd kind of want to see a retrace before jumping in. So I think on like down here or between them, but I think down here, then I would look for a reversal pattern basically. We1 tracks. Do you consider possible to be profitable trading purely using only price action with the correct mindset, of course? Yes, because I trade profitably and I use only price action. And yes, you need the correct mindset, 100%. But everything that you could ever need is in the price action, in my opinion. It takes a lot longer to learn it because you need to sit there for a very long time with very many hours under your belt. But after that period of time, you can just understand everything. You can read the story of the price action almost like a book. Just kind of like how it feels very effortless to me now. It didn't always used to be this way, of course. I used to spend ages like drilling down to stuff, but now I can see it. I can see in like, if I just zoom in, like I've marked this level, but I can see this low on the lower time frames, maybe like M15 or something. There's going to be a cluster there of, it could just look like a little range or something. Like these little things you kind of develop over time, but it really depends on how much effort and time you put in, essentially. And I put in a very huge amount of time. But yeah, it is totally possible with all of the tools and the indicators that are available. You can understand how they work just by understanding the price action. Like with order flow trading and market profile and all that kind of stuff, you will understand that from just observing the price action. But you won't necessarily understand the price action if you know how to use like a moving average or something. I'm not saying they don't work, but I think you can just look at the candlesticks, and with a bit of time and a bit of effort and some dedication, then you will be able to understand it pretty well. You can see it all in the charts. Like I may say to you, like this is low volume and looks more like continuing down potentially to these lows, based purely on the fact that I've seen it. I know what it looks like when it's going to continue up, and it does look a little bit cleaner. But this to me is very clean. This not so much. And it's just kind of a thing you develop with enough time. But I would say it's worth it, 100%. I would always advocate for it, and I'd always suggest people learn price action over anything else. And then you can develop ways to enter the market based on your reading of the price action, whether you want to do limit orders or you want to wait for confirmation at levels like I do. I watch the order flow. I just watch the candles develop, and then you get a little bit of a sense of how the things are moving, and what the sellers, whether they're like drying up a little bit or whatever. You kind of just get the sense from just watching everything develop, and then I hit market order at the right time, or I try to hit market order at the right time as much as possible. So yeah, you can do all of that with price action. So if that's something you're interested in, there's free videos on my channel about how to learn from a beginner level. And I'm going to do a video at some point, like a full course, master course, or whatever you want to call it. beginner to advanced with it all. Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, we'll wrap this up. Nearly been an hour. Otherwise, make sure you sign up to Watt using my link in the description below. A few of you guys have actually signed up, but not all of you are trading on it. So if you signed up and you haven't traded on it yet, go and trade on it. It's a very nice platform. I only promote things on this channel which I'm actually genuinely using, which has been Edgewonk, which is what I journal with, Forex Tester, which is what I back test with, and this, which is what I trade crypto with now. So yeah. It will help me out, it will help them out, and it will help you out as well. Because I think genuinely they're going to have a big airdrop next year. Has it really been an hour? Yeah. Cheers, Linky. Great stream once again. Glad you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something as well. But I enjoy doing these too. I enjoy doing them. Thanks for the answer. Actually, I've already been trading for the last 3 years and tried a lot of things majorly bright in order flow, but I always feel like the mindset is what messes me up. It is 100% the mindset which messes you up. You can learn any strategy, you can learn any technical analysis like within a few months. Obviously, you can't get the nuances and you can't get the experience from having many years and reps in the market, but it's going to be down to your mindset, how you execute things. And it comes down to how you live your life and what your habits are. It comes down to your routine and your processes for everyday life, and the person that you are like in everyday life is the person who you're going to be when you come to the charts. So, you know, if you're sloppy in areas of your life, you're going to be sloppy in areas of trading as well. And you kind of need to make it overall a bit more holistic, overall a little bit more balanced. Otherwise, you're going to have periods of time where you are really hot, but then you'll have times where you're really cold and give up all of the gains, and you can go on these self-sabotaging loops. And that's kind of part of the journey, really, and understanding that you're capable of going through these like self-sabotaging loops, like I say, or these periods where you can't even read the charts properly. You do everything wrong in all of your process. But it's constant work. It's constantly that you have to look to maintain a certain level of psychological balance, and not just in trading, but in everything. Like if you have a job and you're really stressed out in work, you're going to bring that stress to trading. If you've got a really stressful home life, you're going to have a stressful time on the charts. If you're in like debt, then you're looking to trade something to get you out of debt. It's a complete wrong mindset, and every red tick on like the unrealized P&L, like when you're in the minus, every like extra dollar that goes down hurts just like that little bit more, because you put so much emotional attachment to it. But yeah, you need to be a bit more emotionally balanced. But it's 100% your mindset. Like it is all your mindset. This is why I give everything away that I do, because there's the real edge is you. It's not the charts. You can read the charts in a certain way, but your ability to execute consistently and correctly is down to you. And that's why 90+%, I'd say like 98, I'd say my figure is about 98%, I reckon. 98, 99% of people fail because it's them. And all you have to do is go on social media or forums and see why so many people fail. It's quite clear. And it's because people don't realize that the way they live their life is the way that they trade. Learning from every video, basically. Thanks. Cool. I'm glad. All right, guys, let's leave it there. It's been an hour. It's been wonderful. I'll see you guys next week. Don't forget to sign up to Watt, trade on Watt, get some points, and hopefully have a very big airdrop for yourself early 2026. That's what I'm hoping for as well. And I will see you guys next time. There'll be a video on Friday at some point. Not really related to this, but I'll try to do another one on Twitter as well. So make sure you catch that. I can do a little bit less editing then. But yeah, all right, guys, take care. Cheers, Richard. Cheers, Linky. Cheers, everyone else. See you guys. Bye-bye.